build. So super excited about that.
Very
All
cool.
right. Welcome everyone to the Power Half Hour. And this week we have a very special guest from Houston, Texas, business coach Sam Varner. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you for coming on. So tell us a little bit about your story, how you became a business coach.
Okay, so there's like a long and meandering path to that, but essentially, I think it started from growing up. My dad owned his own construction company, and so I got to watch him be the boss. So I always knew that I wanted to eventually own my own business.
Hmm.
And I worked in corporate jobs. I have a background in public relations and communications, and then tripped into personal finance. So was doing financial advising for people in Calgary and got to the point where I was kind of like, what am I going to do next? And my husband got a job in Australia. So that flipped me right into, oh, I guess we're going to Australia.
Oh my gosh.
And when I was there, I had just trained, gotten all my credentials to do the same thing as I was doing in Canada, only to have him come home and say, "Hey, how about Texas?" And it's like,
Oh,
"What? Okay, cool. I'll roll with that." At that point, we had 4 kids. So when we got to Texas,
wow.
yeah. So I got to Texas and thought, okay, I want to take advantage of all the things that I've done in the past, but I don't necessarily want to go back to a corporate job. And now is the time to open a business and do it myself. So
Awesome.
I started doing personal financial coaching for people. So I wanted to
Mm.
help them with their budgeting, their finances, just making the financial world more comfortable for people. And very quickly, business owners were the ones that were showing up. So whatever I was saying
Mm.
online, whatever I was talking about in networking groups, it was resonating with people that owned business.
Ah.
And so instead of doing, hey, we'll figure out your personal money, I went very quickly into, I will profit coach you and get you to make more money in your business, which alleviates the tension on the personal finances if you're doing it correctly. So that's how I ended up here.
Amazing. Well, it's quite the journey, starting from corporate to financial planning for people and business coaching, personal, individual, and then boom, business
Mm-hmm.
coaching. Kind of just like one led to another naturally. It just wasn't like you were like from day one, I want to be a business coach, but because you're good at it, and now it turned into this whole thing. So how long have you been doing the business coaching part of it?
It's been 5 years now.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of businesses, especially because my audience is mainly realtors,
Mm-hmm.
we're not profitable.
You're right.
I would
I
say,
wish I wish I could say no, that's not true, but no, you're right. You're right.
yeah, yeah, and it's tough to be profitable. So I guess, if you when you're working with business owners, team leaders, what are some tips and tricks right now that you're giving them to become more profitable? Besides, like, spend less, make more.
Well, it always kind of boils down to spend less, make more,
Yeah.
but it comes from a position of how exactly you're going to do that, right? Because yeah,
Mm.
we hear that advice. We know what it looks like to
Yeah.
calculate out our profitability, and it comes from a place of figuring out where are your gaps right now? So are
Mm.
you actually in a position of selling more and more of the people you're in front of, right? What's your closing ratio in your business? Are you good at it? Right?
Mm.
And this happens, real estate's a great example of an industry where people are naturally often good talkers and they are naturally kind of salesy people.
Yeah.
And I mean that in the best way possible.
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily work on how do I strengthen that sales muscle and get better and better at closing, at figuring out what are those pinpoints where I could have gotten that guy, but something happened. Do we go back and evaluate and reflect on why we lost the business or why they didn't
Mm.
choose you when you're in a bit of a situation of either a bidding war on a selling situation
Yeah.
or when somebody's getting ready to actually sell their house and they're interviewing 4 or 5 different people, what is it that didn't get you the job? And how are we correcting for that on the front end, right?
Interesting. So that's actually even like a marketing type of coaching and also a little bit of sales coaching, I would guess, right?
Yeah, and my
Okay.
philosophy has always been that I have a crush formula. So I use a crush formula to kind of walk my clients through. And we start with the core of your
Hmm.
business. So why are you even doing what you're doing? Why are you in this industry to begin with? Why do you want to serve clients from the position that you are?
Love
We
it.
get that really strong because that's what keeps us going on those days where it feels like banging your head against the wall.
And that's a lot of days these days for a lot of realtors. I mean,
It
it's
is.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
the
get to
real
the
estate
core. Got
business
it.
right now is hard, right?
Yeah.
It is. And so we need to have a reason for getting up and continuing to do it. So we start there, but then we do talk about all of your financials and understanding it and making really clear decisions as to what we're spending money on, what we're not spending money on, what we're
Hmm.
evaluating the ROI, so the return on your investment for all the things that we do spend our money on in a business, all of those pieces. But then there is the sales, promotion, mindset, automation, all of those pieces I still feel like drives into profit. So we talk about all of that, which is a little bit more diverse than just, hey, what are your numbers, right?
Yeah, interesting. So it really like a holistic whole view of the business, from sales to marketing to what are you spending lead gen on, what are you not
Yeah.
spending on, where are the gaps, where are the opportunities for you to increase income. And obviously you dissect the P&L and L and everything and identify where you're spending money, where you shouldn't be spending money.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's always the part where it's interesting, especially with certain service based businesses like being in real estate. You sometimes people forget that they're actually in business for themselves, right? They're kind of that like it's a pseudo, am I an employee?
Yeah.
I work under a different brokerage. Like how does that work? There's structures there that you have to kind of maintain and follow to a certain degree, but then you're pretty autonomous as well. It's kind of that combination. And sometimes we just, because everybody else is doing it, I'm spending money on this. And I didn't ever really think about it. And is it even working for me? And so that's a huge portion of the discussion and knowing your numbers, like actually
Yeah.
being able to pull up a P&L, right? There's a lot of business owners that are like, "Ugh, I don't really do that." I'm like, "Oh, but now we do. Now we do."
Yeah, or they don't want to look at the
Yeah.
reality of the situation. It's like, yes, we're not profitable,
Yeah.
right? So why do you think that well, especially in the market right now, people aren't profitable? And in good times, people aren't profitable. Why is that?
Well, in good times, people aren't profitable because they go crazy with spending, right? So either
Mm,
you're pulling money for your personal accounts because you want to be living the lifestyle you feel like you've earned as a business owner and you're now finally making money and it's coming in and you're like, woohoo, vacation time or whatever that looks like for you. Um, but in the slow times, we're not profitable because it takes us a long time to pivot, right? If the things aren't
mm.
working that we're doing, are we shifting? Are we doing more? Are we 10xing our effort when that's what the market calls for? And most people don't do that, right?
Yeah, it's way better to prepare and to be ahead of the curve and say, okay, I see a wave coming, whatever it is. Like this is what
Yeah.
we need to do now. So is that what you do with your clients as well?
Yeah, I definitely do. We talk a lot about having money set aside. So you're profitable means we're actually generating revenue and there's revenue in the business that's sitting there for the lean times, that's sitting there for the investment opportunity that comes along that you want to be able to take advantage of. But
Hmm.
so we're building to that as well. So not only are we building profitability from a corporate standpoint, right, where we can start to self finance on the low times, but
Hmm.
also we're building it because we want to take more money home and actually create the life we've intended. We're all self employed because we thought we could make more money this way. We'd have more time freedom, more financial freedom. But most of us feel like, oh no, I've made a terrible, terrible mistake. I'm working way more than I was in a corporate job and making way less. And it's like, well, don't stay there. Don't keep doing that.
Right.
Get help with what's not working. right?
It's funny, like I always see on Instagram, social media, I gave up my 9 to 5 so I can work 24/7 and make the same amount of money. Like, what's the point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's super funny. The struggle with a lot of agents that are looking to scale into a team, into a real business, is that
Mm-hmm.
they don't have systems.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of times people are at a loss of that. Is that what you come in and do for a lot of teams as well?
Yeah, I will help with I always talk about it in terms of automation and delegation, right? So you
Mm,
are going to need some human capital, you're going to need some people to help you, and you're going to need some automation in your business. You're going to need to have that back end piece where it's like, what does your follow up look like with clients? What is your
mm,
tracking of where your clients are? Where are your leads coming in from? And how are you capturing all of that?
mm-hmm.
Especially in real estate, you have to be talking to a lot of people, right? It's a lot of numbers of get in front of people, have conversations, and maintain the relationship. So you don't want to rely on your memory for that. That's a
Yeah,
terrible plan. Um, you don't want to have it just be like I scroll back through my phone text messages and say like, "Oh yeah, I haven't talked to Bob in a bit. I need to reach
right.
out." Like this is not systematic and it's
No.
not something you can pass off to another individual. So, we do go through and analyze where do you need help in this and then what are the systems available? Real estate in particular, there are so many softwares dedicated and specific to the industry that can be used or just generalized sales tools that are out there in the world that will help you manage some of this automation piece.
I love that. So it's about delegation and automation with the follow-ups and putting in systems so that, when you're a business owner, is the business running you or are you running the business?
Yeah.
Do you also help agents scale, grow, and get out of production? Is that one piece that you can help with as well?
Yeah, I definitely have that conversation. For the most part, the agents that I've dealt with up until this point have been either scaling from I'm on a team and I want to go independent, so they're at
Got
that
it.
stage,
Hmm.
or I'm an independent agent and I want to build a team.
Got it.
So it's an easy next step. And I say
Yeah.
easy, with kind of quotations because it doesn't feel easy if you're sitting there. But it is just a systematic approach to how would I remove myself from the day-to-day operations of this
Yeah.
and how strong is my management skill. This is
Mm,
where your ability to manage humans in that role has to be really spot on for you to step back and completely get out of it. Then it's not really your business anymore, right? Then you've created something where you have somebody in there managing for you and it's just an investment asset
I
that's
love that.
essentially kind of trucking along.
Yeah, I mean, the point of building a business, even with the real estate sales business, is
Hmm.
to build it so that you can one day be able to sell it. I'm not th saying that you will, but be
Hmm.
able to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but most agents are not. Most agents are sole proprietor. Most
Hmm.
agents are grinding and don't have systems.
Yeah.
And some of them actually they work until very late age and
Hmm.
having to, not because they want to.
Yeah.
So can you help with that? Like if I were to come here and tell you, okay, well, I'm a solo agent, I want to start scaling, but I don't know what to do. Can you give me
Hmm.
like step by step?
Yeah, I absolutely can. And one of the things is going to be, are you sure you want it to be people? Like, do you
Mm,
want to manage people? Do you want to
right.
actually, because it is the natural next step, right? If you look at the projection of a real estate agent, that is kind of the theory.
Yeah.
But not everybody wants to do the management piece. Not everybody wants to have agents under them to maintain. So then it's actually first,
Mm,
how do you want to grow? What do you want it to look like? What is success defined as by the individual? And then at that point, then we can build or scale according to what they're trying to create, right?
I
So
love
are
that.
they trying to create a big team or are they actually trying to just generate more sales or a higher price point so they're creating more revenue for themselves?
So it's really not one size fits all. It's really a custom solution from, what you're telling me right now. So that's
Yeah.
good to know. Here's a question,
Yeah.
because I myself, I sold over 100 homes as a solo agent first before I started building a team. And I've also seen other agents that have come, 10 transactions first year with just by himself.
Yep.
And 30, but he added one agent. 50, he added another agent. Now he's doing hundreds of deals. But he started out doing that, whereas I went to 100 deals as a solo agent. Do you, can you help someone scale? Because I don't think, I mean, unless it's like all about ego, like it's you yourself selling 100 homes, it just, you I got to sacrifice everything else. I'm just being
Yeah.
real, right?
Yeah.
So can you help with that?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. I can help with figuring out why aren't you selling more homes, right? So the person that's doing 10 in a year. Okay, what's the gap? Why are we not getting from 10 a year to 20 a year, right? Let's go to that first. And it might just be a couple of little tweaks, or it might be a bigger in-depth kind of evaluation. And if you're selling 100 homes in the first year, right, or in a year, then the question is, okay, what are you sacrificing? That's going to be the question. Like, John, we're going to sit
Yeah.
down and I'm going to say, like, okay, so how does it feel to have done that? And if you're open and vulnerable, we're not doing it necessarily in public, you're going to probably say, like, well, it felt great from a numbers standpoint, from a, like, my name on the list, right? That feels good. We like that feeling. But from a, like, did I feel like I ever got to sit down and rest? Did I feel like I ever
Mm,
got to take any time off where I wasn't trying to, like, move the next deal along? Probably not that easily when you're doing it all yourself. That's an
mm.
incredible amount of work in the same hours as the guy who sold 10 houses, right? You
Yeah,
only have the same
exactly.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody ever asked me if I'm taking enough time off. It was always like, push, push, push. Let's get to 100 deals. Let's make $1 million. But little did I realize, I was giving up everything else. So you can come in and
Yeah.
help with that. Work less and make more, or maybe work the same amount and make more. Why not?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Don't work. I rarely am saying to people, you need to work more to make more. That
Mm,
feels, unless they're literally doing very little, right? Unless they're at the stage where they're like, I have kind of given up. I'm a little bit burnt out and I'm doing very little.
yeah.
Usually my response is like, what does your downtime look like? What is your
Mm.
focus time with your family? What is your time that you're spending recreationally? Because if that part doesn't exist, then it's no fun. Like, what are you doing it for?
Wow. So you do some coaching and advice on that as well, not just the business part. It's like, okay, well, what are we
Yeah.
allocating to recreation? Because that's important. Like, why are you even working? Why make all this money when you have nobody to share it with? You have
Yeah.
no fun. Like, you're just gonna burn out.
You are, and you're going to quit and you're going to go back to working that corporate job, or you're going to have troubles with your relationship because that person's never going to see you, or, your kids are going to do that guilt thing where they're like, hey, are you coming to this thing? Oh, never mind. And they just stop asking because they know you're not, right? And those
Yeah.
aren't the reasons we do these things. Like, there's none of us that are out here grinding away or working away at a business to not be available to the people that are important.
Yeah, I think we lose sight of that, and it's like, why am I even doing this? Like, I want to make money because I can have time, but the more money we make, the less time we seem to have. So definitely, why didn't we meet you 10 years ago is my question. But I'm glad we're chatting now, and hopefully, our audience will reach out to you. What sort of typical results for a real estate agent that they can expect by working with you?
That's a really good question. I had a podcast episode go out this week on the She Needs Grit podcast, and it was a client of mine who's a realtor,
Mm,
and she was on a team and then went independent with me
mm.
and increased her. Now, I want to say, I'm almost certain it was her revenue, but it's on that podcast, so you can double check me. You can fact check me, but it's a 300% increase in her revenue over the course of the time that we worked together. So the first, I think it was 12 months.
Awesome.
Um, it was a huge increase. So she went from being on a team to being independent. And
Hmm.
the thing that she says on that podcast that I think is so interesting is her motivation at that point wasn't really money. It was fear around getting coached around the fear of, could she even do that? Would she even have the ability to be successful on her own. That
Mm.
feeling like she was so protected and so safe within the group, and could she actually even be independent? That felt like a big step for her. And so that was part of our coaching to begin with. And then, we've seen just massive, massive growth since then with her. And
Wow.
she still is in my circle now. So
That's awesome. So really, it's that goes beyond business systems, profit and loss, recreation, coaching you on how to have a life. It's
hmm
also about your limiting beliefs. So it really is like the whole everything. You coach on
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
I think it's very hard to coach completely in isolation on one aspect. I
Hmm.
mean, I think you could get coaching on like, how do I create better Instagram reels? I think that's a tangible, but it's almost like that's
Right,
a
right.
tangible skill that you're trying to learn.
Hmm.
Business is so robust, and profitability and building a thriving life is so robust.
Mm.
You need to have a bit of all of this. I can't just say to you like, "Sweet, your spreadsheet looks great.
Right.
Your life is still a disaster. It seems like you're really stressed, but away you go. Good luck." That feels bad.
Right. Okay. So it's not really
Yeah.
all just about the numbers. You actually dive
No.
deep with your clients and
Mhm.
really figure out what they want. I mean, business is one aspect, but what's good business when you have a crappy life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, so
That's
build the life
amazing.
and then have your business be the supporting cast to that, right? It's the
Yeah.
financier of that life that you're trying to build. And if you do it that way, it's a lot easier to maintain. Balance is kind of a crappy word for it, but to maintain a real life, right? Because we're
Hmm.
a real person, we're not robots. So that's how you have to do it.
Exactly. With all the AI available, we're still we're human.
Yep.
What are some biggest struggles right now that you see for real estate agents that you're working with, and how are you navigating them past that?
I think one of the biggest ones I hear about all the time is there's been such a shift in the market, right? So we're looking at interest rates being
Yeah.
probably the primary issue
Hmm.
that I hear about the most. And honestly, I often will say when I'm in front of a group, it is not important. It is true, right? Everything that you're feeling is true and factual. And yes, we can like look at the logistics of it, but it doesn't matter. It is just the today and now in terms of what the market looks like, in terms of what the interest rates are looking
Hmm.
like. There are still people buying and selling property at these interest rates. We see it. There's still names up on that leaderboard in the office.
Hmm.
So we have to be very careful not to fall into the trap of like, I can't because of what's happening. It's like, no,
Mm.
I can despite what's happening, but it's a different problem. So what do I need to shift? What I did 3 months ago or a year ago is not going to work. So looking at it just as a problem, just as a like, okay, how could I make this work? And then going after it. Um, that's the number one thing is like, don't let the news or the words that you're floating around in the world settle so heavy on you that you then just think it's impossible, I can't.
That's amazing. I always say, it's because the market is down right now that I will, become
Yes.
successful, right? I always
Yeah.
say, in 2008, that's the year I actually became, in my mind, a really tough agent because I
Yeah.
went through the grind and
Yeah.
I became better because of it. So I always think, okay, when the market's down, here's my opportunity
Mhm.
and there's less competition, right?
Yeah, well,
So
look, there's so many people that are in real estate right now that will not be here next year. And by next year I mean January. Like not next year, a year from now.
let's talk to those people right now. If they are listening right now, quiet quitting or straight up like signing my
Straight up
paper
quitting.
saying I'm out of the business, what would you say
Yeah.
to them right now?
Make a decision.
Mm.
Make a decision of either you are in this business for the long term, not just till Tuesday, not till it's easier, but like you're literally in it, or choose, actively choose to not be in it, and don't make that a bad thing. Make it be just a decision you're making in your life and then go to the next thing. But don't waffle. Don't waste any more weeks of you thinking, I should have, I maybe, like, it doesn't get you anywhere. So you either go, I always say to the kids, I've got four now, and a couple of them are teenagers, so we're in that stage. And it's like we only do things with our full ass. No half-assing allowed, right? It's you're all in. So if you're calling yourself a realtor right now,
Yeah.
then for the love, do the things a realtor needs to do to be successful. Otherwise, choose a different occupation and have that be totally okay that that's your choice, but either lean in or get out because it's causing you more stress dwelling on that day in, day out anyway. That's not helping.
Yeah, I always say when you're stressed out about the lack of income and the lack of sales, you're actually not prospecting. And for a real estate salesperson, all you got to do is pick up the phone and call
Yeah.
people and set appointments and make money. So really draw a line in the sand, guys, and make a decision today. Like either I'm out or
Yeah.
I'm all in. And
Yeah.
I love that. Like we do things full ass.
Full ass, both
Full
cheeks,
ass.
all in. Let's go. Like
Both cheeks.
both cheeks, right?
I love it. I love it. Now, as we close out 2023 into 2024, first of all, like your prediction on the market, if you could see it. Obviously, you don't have a crystal ball. Tough
No, I wish
question.
I did.
And what's the biggest opportunity for agents going forward here?
Okay, I think I'm not going to make a prediction on rates or any of that, but I do think there are windows of opportunity that are going to open up. There's going to be agents that leave the industry, and that leaves a gap. That means more potential clients for the people that are still standing. So do not hesitate when it comes to going back to those leads that you did a terrible job of following up with to begin with, right? The ones where you're like, oh, geez, I talked to George 6 months ago. I never did anything with it. I feel like a bit of a fool for leaving that. Now it's been too long. He's never going to want to hear from me. Just ignore that completely and go back through your list, start to finish properly. Every human you've ever touched, every human you've ever had that interaction with about real estate, just get her done. Get in front of them, pick up the phone, do that. And otherwise, don't worry about it. Don't worry about what 2024 looks like other than how are you motivated to move into this new year.
I love it. It's all about you. And we always hear that the market does not determine my production or the money in the bank. The market does determine what I need to do differently
Yeah.
to get to the goal that I want, which is more money in the bank. So, guys, keep at it. Draw a line in the sand and just go get after it. Leave no stones unturned, is what you're saying. Is like,
Absolutely.
don't worry about it and just go back and text and call every single person that you've ever touched that has shown some sort of interest or can refer you some business, right?
Yeah.
So, Sam, amazing advice. How can people reach you if they wanted to, get into your coaching or just have a discovery call?
Yeah. So probably the best place to find me is Sam the Profit Coach on Instagram. That is the best place. Slide into my DMs, tell me you listen to this, and ask the question. Like whatever you're sitting there with right now, just ask me. I'm happy to have that conversation, or we'll book a call and we'll talk about how I can help you grow your business.
Amazing. And what I'm gathering from this call is that Sam will actually be very gentle with you and not beat you up. So I like that. Sam, what a great
I'm
call.
gentle, but a little bit of an ass kicker. So it's a
Oh,
little like I'm nicely gonna kick you in the behind and get you
I
going.
love it. And with full ass, both cheeks, guys. With that being said, thank you so much for being here, Sam. We'll look forward to seeing you soon, and we'll need to have a part two of this. Thank you.
That sounds perfect. Thank
All
you.
right.